Most people don't think about cyber policy until something goes wrong. Usually it starts with something small. An app asks for your access to your contacts, microphone, location, maybe your camera too. You hesitate for about 2 seconds, then you hit accept because you just want to use the app already, and honestly, that's what we all do. That tiny interaction seems meaningless, but behind it is a huge system of laws, regulations, governments, and companies all trying to decide what should happen to your data once you hand it over. And honestly, most people don't realize how complicated that system actually is, because your data rarely stays in one place anymore. You sign up for one app, but your information might get processed in multiple countries before you even finish setting up your account. Maybe the servers are in one region, maybe customer data gets analyzed somewhere else, maybe backups are stored somewhere completely different. And every country involved can have different rules about what companies are allowed to collect, store, or share. That's basically where cyber policy starts becoming important. It's less about the technical side of hacking and more about the rules behind digital systems. Who owns the data? Who gets access to it? What companies are responsible for it? What happens after a breach? Things like that. And the rules are wildly different depending on where you are. Europe, for example, tends to take privacy much more seriously from a regulatory standpoint. Laws like GDPR give users more control over their information and put stricter limits on companies collecting data without clear justification. In the US, it's a lot more fragmented. The rules can change depending on the state, the industry, or even the specific type of information being collected. Health data might follow one set of standards, while social media platforms might follow another. Now imagine trying to run a global app across all of those systems at once. That's where things start getting a bit messy, because sometimes the rules don't even agree with each other. One country might demand access to certain user data for an investigation. Another country might have laws preventing that same data from leaving its borders. So now the company is stuck in the middle trying to figure out which law takes priority. And this gets even more complicated once cyber attacks enter the picture. A cyber attack doesn't really care about borders. The attacker could be sitting in one country, the hack server could be somewhere else, and the victims could be spread across multiple regions at the same time. That creates a huge problem for investigators. Even figuring out who actually carried out an attack can take weeks or even months. A lot of cyber attackers get routed through different systems around the world intentionally to make tracking harder. So by the time investigators narrow things down, the attackers have usually already moved on. And once governments get involved, it stops being purely technical pretty quickly. Now you've got diplomacy, international pressures, sanctions, intelligence agencies, law enforcement, all mixed together. Which is part of why cyber policy moves so slowly sometimes. Technology changes incredibly fast, laws do not. And governments are constantly trying to catch up to systems that didn't even exist a few years earlier. AI is making that even more obvious right now. Cloud systems changed everything. Encrypted messaging changed things, decentralized platforms changed things. Every major shift online creates new legal questions nobody is fully prepared for ahead of time. And meanwhile, companies are sitting in the middle trying to balance privacy, security, business interests, and government demands all at once. That balancing act creates a lot of tensions, especially around encryption. Law enforcement agencies argue they need faster access to encrypted systems during investigations. Privacy advocates argue that weakening encryption makes everyone less secure overall. And honestly, both sides believe they're protecting the public. That's what makes these debates so complicated. There usually isn't a clean answer. And most ordinary users never even see these arguments happening in the background. They just experience the results. Maybe an app changes its privacy policy, maybe certain features disappear in one country but not another, maybe a platform suddenly starts requiring new verification steps. A lot of those decisions trace back to cyber policy somewhere underneath. That's really what makes this field interesting. It's not just about hacking, it's about who gets to shape the rules for the internet itself. Because the internet was never built under one global system. It evolved through thousands of overlapping decisions made by different countries, companies, and regulators with completely different priorities. And now all of those systems are colliding in real time, which means cyber policy is becoming less of a niche issue and more of a thing that affects basically everyone using technology every day, even if most people never realize it's there. If you want to learn more about cybersecurity, digital privacy, and how global tech systems are actually governed behind the scenes, check out the links in the description below.